She watched her father's face carefully as the trembling waitress approached their table, clutching the stained apron like a lifeline. In that split second, 7-year-old Emma didn't know she was about to witness the kind of moment that changes everything, the kind that reveals who people truly are when no one's watching. Her small hand was already reaching out, her voice cutting through the expensive silence of the restaurant. "Please, sit with us." The other diners gasped. But her father, he just smiled. The Sterling Heights Country Club wasn't the kind of place where children noticed the help. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light across tables draped in imported Italian linens, where conversations about stock portfolios and summer homes in the Hamptons hummed like background music. This was old money, the kind that whispered rather than spoke, that knew the price of everything simply by its absence from the menu. Marcus Richardson belonged here, even if he'd never quite felt like he did. Self-made millionaire, tech entrepreneur, single father, the labels followed him like shadows. But none of them captured the weight he carried since Sarah died 3 years ago, leaving him alone to raise their daughter in a world that seemed to value everything except what truly mattered. Emma had her mother's eyes, warm, impossibly kind, seeing past surfaces into the heart of things. At 7, she hadn't yet learned to look away from discomfort, to pretend she didn't notice when something was wrong. It was a quality Marcus both cherished and feared for her, knowing how much easier life became when you mastered indifference. "Daddy, why is that lady crying?" Marcus followed his daughter's gaze to the corner where a young waitress stood frozen, tears streaming down her face as the manager's voice rose in sharp, cutting syllables. The other servers had learned long ago to become invisible during such moments, melting into the walls like ghosts. But this girl, barely 20, with dark circles under her eyes and a name tag that read, Claire, seemed incapable of disappearing. "She probably just made a mistake, sweetheart. But he's being mean to her." The manager's words carried across the dining room now, each one designed to wound. "This is the 3rd time this month. Do you have any idea what these people pay for membership here? They don't come to be served by some incompetent." "That's enough." Marcus's voice wasn't loud, but it carried the weight of authority. The manager turned, recognition and calculation flickering across his face as he identified one of the club's wealthiest members. "Mr. Richardson, I apologize for the disturbance. This employee has been—" "I said that's enough." Marcus stood, and the restaurant seemed to hold its breath. "Whatever happened, it doesn't warrant public humiliation." The manager's smile was practiced, professional, empty. "Of course, sir. We'll handle this in private." But Emma was already out of her seat, her small feet carrying her across the dining room before Marcus could stop her. She stood before Claire, looking up at the tearful woman with the kind of unwavering compassion that adults unlearn somewhere along the way. "Don't cry," Emma said softly. "He shouldn't talk to you like that. You're doing your best, right?" Claire looked down at the little girl, something cracking in her carefully maintained composure. She nodded, unable to speak. "Then that's all that matters." Emma's hand found Claire's. "Come sit with us. You look tired. My daddy always says tired people need friends." The gasps from the other tables were audible now. A few matrons clutched their pearls, literally. Someone muttered about inappropriate familiarity. The manager's face cycled through shades of red that had no names. And Marcus. He watched his daughter, this small miracle of a human being, and felt his heart break and heal simultaneously. He looked at Claire, really looked, and saw past the stained apron and mascara-streaked cheeks. He saw exhaustion, desperation, and something else, dignity fighting to survive. "Yes," he said quietly, his smile soft as morning light. "Please join us." The walk across that dining room must have felt like miles for Claire. She clutched Emma's hand like an anchor, her other hand pressed against her mouth to stifle sobs. When they reached the table, Marcus pulled out a chair, not the small side chair, but one of the main seats, usually reserved for business partners or important guests. "I can't," Claire whispered. "I'll lose my job. I've already," her voice broke. "I dropped a tray. Champagne glasses. They cost more than I make in a month, and I have to pay for them. And I just found out my mom needs surgery, and I don't know how I'm going to." "Breathe," Marcus said gently. "Just breathe." Emma was already pouring water from the crystal pitcher, her tongue stuck out in concentration as she carefully filled a glass for Claire. "My mommy used to say that problems look smaller after you drink some water and take 3 big breaths." Claire accepted the glass with shaking hands. She drank. She breathed. And slowly, the panic receded enough for her to speak. Her story tumbled out in fragments. Medical school dreams deferred, student loans crushing her future before it began, a mother diagnosed with cancer, 2 younger brothers depending on her, jobs stacked on jobs until sleep became a luxury she couldn't afford. She'd been working double shifts for 6 months straight, trying to save enough for her mother's copay while covering rent and utilities and food and everything else that life demanded. "I'm so tired," she whispered finally, the admission seeming to cost her everything. "I'm just so tired." Marcus listened. He didn't interrupt with solutions or advice or the kind of toxic positivity that wealthy people often wielded like weapons. He just listened, and Emma held Claire's hand, and for a few minutes, a corner of that exclusive restaurant became a sanctuary. Then Marcus did something that made the watching diners gasp again. He took out his phone, made a call, and said simply, "Cancel my afternoon. All of it." To Claire, he said, "How much do you owe for the glasses?" $1,200. He nodded, pulled out his checkbook, one of the few people under 60 who still carried such things, and wrote. When he slid it across the table, Claire's eyes widened. This is $25,000. $1,200 for the glasses. The rest is for your mother's medical bills, and to give you some breathing room." He held up a hand as she started to protest. "This isn't charity. Consider it an investment. My company has a new initiative. We're offering full scholarships for employees pursuing healthcare degrees. We also provide flexible scheduling for family emergencies and comprehensive health insurance that covers dependents. If you're interested, my HR director will call you Monday morning." Claire stared at the check, at this man, at this little girl who had seen her when everyone else had looked away. Tears came again, but different this time, the kind that waters new growth instead of drowning hope. "Why?" she whispered. Emma answered before her father could, "Because being kind is more important than being rich." "Right, Daddy." Marcus smiled, that same soft smile, and ruffled his daughter's hair. "Right, sweetheart." The manager approached cautiously, clearly calculating how to spin this situation to his advantage. But Marcus cut him off with a look. "Claire will not be charged for those glasses. If you have a problem with that, bill me directly. And if I hear you've retaliated against her in any way, I'll be having a conversation with the club's board about leadership that values appearance over humanity." They finished their meal together, Marcus, Emma, and Claire. They talked about everything and nothing. Favorite movies, best ice cream flavors, dreams deferred and dreams reimagined. The other diners eventually returned to their own conversations, though more than a few glanced over with expressions ranging from disapproval to grudging admiration. When Claire finally had to return to work, Emma hugged her tight. "Will we see you again?" "I think so," Claire said, looking at Marcus with wonder still written across her face. "I think maybe you will." As they left the restaurant, Emma slipped her hand into her father's. "Mommy would have liked her." Marcus squeezed gently, his vision blurring. "Yes, she would have. And Mommy would be proud of us, right? So proud, baby. So incredibly proud." 6 months later, Claire started at Richardson Tech as a part-time employee, taking online pre-med courses the company paid for. Her mother's surgery was successful. Her brothers had new shoes that fit. And every Sunday, she joined Marcus and Emma for dinner, not at the country club, but at their home, where the table was worn wood instead of Italian marble, and the only thing that mattered was the warmth of the people gathered around it. Emma had been right all along. Being kind was more important than being rich. But Marcus had learned something too, that true wealth wasn't measured in bank accounts or club memberships. It was measured in moments like these, when a little girl's compassion created ripples that changed lives, when a soft smile held more power than any amount of money, when choosing to see someone's humanity became the greatest luxury of all. In the end, that's what they would both remember, not the gasps or the judgment or even the check. Just that moment when a child's kindness and a father's quiet strength reminded everyone watching that at our best, we're all simply human, beautifully, imperfectly, gloriously human, and that's more than enough.